Hi there, my name is Matt Raybuck, and I am here to talk about cryptocurrency. My complex problem I'm titling Crypto Regulations Equal Heart Palpitations, Why the Future of Crypto Investing is Such a Hot Topic with the Government. And what I am trying to convey today is the arguments for and against uh, governmental regulation of cryptocurrency, and really speaking to new potential investors in cryptocurrency for what if I refer to this as crypto along the way. That's what I'm referring to. In that age range of 22 to 32, anybody that's a recent college graduate that is looking to diversify their investment strategy or on the cusp of starting one fresh. So if you have money and you're looking to diversify what you put your money into, a lot of people have been looking into crypto, maybe not recently, if you know a little bit about the current market, which we'll touch on, or just looking at that and being able to capitalize in the future. But whatever you end up doing from a strategy standpoint, knowing what those rules are and what decentralization is and deregulation is, talking through that, what the future holds, some pros and cons along the way. I should be able to help you through that. Now, just to qualify myself, I am in the financial world. I have a full-time job at a local bank that some of you may be familiar with, Fifth Third, and I work in that fintech space. So having a little bit of background with this, I should be able to walk you through with a little bit more knowledge than the regular guy, but also taking you through some of the history and trying to connect the dots for people that have no background with crypto, but also maybe those that know a little bit about it but want to know a little bit more. And if you know anything about cryptocurrency, our first stop in this journey is a timeline on where we are now versus where we came from. So this all started back in the 90s, and basically anything that came up with the World Wide Web, cryptocurrency was one of those things. It certainly had its debut on the global stage later in its existence, but as you go through this timeline, you're seeing into the 2010s, 2013, a lot of those things starting in terms of the blockchain technology, how people started applying cryptocurrency to the global economies, any economy, local, grand stage, to where you see today, where people are buying and selling coins on the market. They are using cryptocurrencies to purchase things in a decentralized blockchain way, and people are able to buy Bitcoin and buy it at $30,000 and sell it at $60,000, but they're also able to buy a Bitcoin at $60,000 and have to sell it at 30, because just like a stock, the crypto market is a volatile one that has ebbs and flows and highs and lows. Currently, we are at the lowest of the lows, or in terms of the recent dips that have happened in the market. But this is a good encapsulation of what timing we've gone through, what that looks like, and how we've gotten to today. So what I'm here to talk about is regulation of cryptocurrency. Now, if you know anything about cryptocurrency, you probably know that there isn't much regulation at all. The benefit, or at least what some will tell you, is that there isn't a governmental centralized standpoint for cryptocurrency. And that is, in some camps, the best part about cryptocurrency, in that there isn't something that's telling people what they can do and where they can do it. Jumping into my next image, if I can do that. What happened? So what do we mean by decentralized? So traditional centralized economies, everything's going to the center point. So if you're familiar with the Fed, with the U.S., or things in terms of banks and all transactions coming into one place, the model on the left is a centralized model. The model on the right would be blockchains. These are decentralized things where transactions are not happening all in the same center and going in and out from person to person and all having to reconvene in the same spot. Blockchain allows it to go left, right, backwards, forwards, and it is, for lack of a better term, at the center of the argument is that there doesn't need to be a center. there are people that will tell you that this is the biggest pro of crypto, is that there is a uniqueness to any type of transaction, that what you have done with your transaction is unique. It has almost like a serial number. So every transaction you make has its own social security number, for lack of a better term, and you can trace that back and see what it is and where it happened and why it happened. Why regulation is important is because there's no regulation right now, which is great in some ways. You could argue that, the government doesn't have to go and tell me what I can do, or I'm not having the ability to, follow rules. And we'll touch a little bit about that now or as we go forward. But the regulatory standards that are wanting to be in place, the argument is that, well, those regulations help. If someone comes and steals your currency, right now there's nothing that they can do about it. If you're familiar at all with the FDIC, if you have money in a bank, you are insured up to $100,000, whereas if that bank went bankrupt, you would be covered. There's an insurance behind that. There are things that those banks have to do to make sure that they are proving to federal organizations that what they're doing is without risk, and that they are doing things within the rules, and they are doing the right things at the right time with the right people. There is no such thing in the crypto space. So things like protecting your money, or being able to go and get your money out of whatever cryptocurrency, if you use Coinbase, or if you use the most recent one that's come out, there is a bank that people have gone to, Celsius, where they have gone to go get their money out of that bank, and they're saying, no, we cannot take on any deposits withdrawals at this time, just due to the market. There's no government agency that can go in and say, no, you have to give those people your money. So that is, in some ways a big red flag, and able to explain why regulations would be helpful for people to protect those that are in a pinch, that do want to go get their money and are being told, no, you can't. So that is a big pro in the, camp of, we do need to have these rules because we do want to help people. We do think that would be something that would help the greater good of the economy, of the blockchain technology, so on and so forth. So as we go forward in terms of why isn't crypto regulated, there's the argument that, not all things need government regulation. And there are plenty that will tell you that there are bad things that happen when there is government regulation. If we jump into one of my sources in terms of the cryptic nature of crypto regulations, there are a lot of ripple effects. Now, if we're talking about the pros of it, having the SEC, having commissioners in place, having regulatory coming down to allow there to be a safe harbor for people that have hardships. That is what this paper is talking about and arguing for. But conversely, you have, qualified journals like this from Carol Goforth that is essentially saying, we haven't done great things with government regulations before. We still have the ability to have banks have security flaws, and there are cybersecurity attacks, and there's ransomware attacks that are happening left and right. There are foreign bodies that come and attack America and their banks and their security systems and their data. I'm sure everybody watching this has had some sort of data intrusion, whether it was their bank emailed to tell them that their password needs reset, or even Chipotle told you that your rewards account has been hacked. Those things happen. The argument with deregulation with blockchain is that they will say that we're not going to get any better with this if we're allowing a central government to take care of that for us. We should be able to police that ourselves. We have the digital capabilities to make sure that if we're spreading this work across the internet, across nodes and computers, and decentralizing these across the globe, it is going to be harder for those to get into one central place, which is what government regulations will say. If you have a centralized place, everyone's trying to get into that centralized place to make that hack, to go get that data out of their system. So how do we go about that? How do we want to do that? So a good example of what that looks like from a blockchain perspective is when you have a transaction happening, we are going into the network. That network goes into another network of networks, and then your blockchain is happening. You can probably guess as you even look at this, what does all this mean? It is not the most simple explanation, and finding an infographic that breaks it down in the clearest way is pretty hard to do with all things crypto, whether it was finding a nice graphic for decentralization or anything else. There's always going to be some type of thing to discuss or thing to ask questions about when you're talking about something that has a lot to it, especially something like crypto where we're all trying to learn this together as we go through. But really, when you look at it, what would be a best case scenario for this as we go forward? The best case scenario would be we would find something that would have a real world benefit. There are people that are going to argue that crypto doesn't have that. There is no real world social benefit. As you can see here, there are many arguments to be made, whether it is better for the environment, but there are people that will say it's not better for the environment. There are people that will say, we can have better healthcare and better healthcare purchasing and payments with crypto, as well as digital identity and being able to help sovereign countries and third world countries and helping them be prosperous and survive without relying on their whatever their local currency is. If we centralize the regulation, but we could also, by decentralizing, you do offer the ability to have that global economy. Bitcoin could be used anywhere. It could be used in Ethiopia to Mexico to Chicago, and all those things being the same transactions. There are plenty in the world that would argue that that is helpful, and that does go into the best case scenario, is that we really can't quantify what the best case could be, because this could become a revolution of new technologies. And how we've seen back in the day the Industrial Revolution taking over the globe and countries just booming with new technology and the way that they were able to prosper through that. Could we be on the brink of a digital revolution that were to help us with that? But when you talk about the worst case scenarios, you also have the fact that regulation can't keep up with switching banks and people that are going back and forth, and bad actors and villains that are out there. So what could happen if someone weaponized blockchain and crypto? What if you have crypto pirates that are going in and just taking people's 401k and taking their life savings at a moment's notice, and we don't have a way of tracking those people down? They take your money and they're out, and there's no recourse. You have no one to sue. You don't even know who to sue to go get those. There's not anything that can reverse that, because those blockchain things, and if you're familiar with NFTs, non-fungible tokens, the Bored Apes of the world, people are buying these things and people are being scammed out of them. And then this $2 million square digital thing that you bought is now in someone else's hands, and good luck finding it again, because it's kind of gone in an instant. So that would be the worst case, is that we kind of take that even further. So as far as what the future holds, we kind of are hanging tight and figuring that out. As you can tell, I kind of ride the fence, and many do in the government, Congress, and Senate do as well. I think that there is pressure to do something about the situation, but what it's to be done remains to be seen. As you can see in my bibliography, there's going to be plenty of peer-reviewed papers that argue for it and against it. This is a tough, complex problem to come up with and review, because I don't know that there's a finite answer to it. But I do know that what I wanted to end with is a nice bit of congressional testimony from a gentleman who kind of hits the net on the head of the nail when he speaks of, what could be helpful and what could not be.
For example, as a rancher, I have to deal with water rights, grazing leases, BLM land, and numerous other agreements, contracts, and economic events. Many of these are not digitized, nor are they shared in ways to provide emergent value to policymakers, regulators, and researchers.
So he makes the point, hey, I don't necessarily know if bringing the government into this is going to help. And so with that, What do you think? Let me know.